repeating this, that I wish people knew what trusting in God means. These days, when I have a deep desire for something, a deep, honest desire for something, I get it. But then again, you have then to live to the teachings of the scriptures. And we know we are all human beings with our frailties. We also go back to him to forgive us when we fall short of his expectations. So I want you I want all of us to remember this reading. And even when you have, I don't like calling people enemies, people who desire for your downfall, just pray for them. Tell God, you know my way, you know me better than anybody else. So walk with me, be with me. You'll be surprised. Those people's plans are thrown asunder. So it is my prayer that this class, and now you're assuming a very special identity, because my intention, my purpose is to make a contribution to this country in the area of leadership and policy studies. And God has given me the platform at Daystar. We have this master's program accredited by the commission. I'm working very hard on the PhD curriculum. I would like to see many of you come, because as we are transiting, you know, we are moving out and you are the new generation to come in. Again, a dream come true. I said 3 years ago, I was going to start a course in leadership and policy studies, the first in this country. And I'm going to start a course in PhD studies. So that is my revelation. And may God continue to help you people discover where your faith, discover a resting place for your faith. You know, when you have a resting place for your faith, then you just continue knocking and seeking and telling God, this is not my problem. This is your problem. So please help me. Amata, pray for us.
Let's believe and pray. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you with thanksgiving, dear Father, this evening. We want to thank you for the leadership of our country. Thank you for taste and budget management, staff and students. We also want to thank you, Lord, for our specific families and for the peaceful neighborhood you've given us, oh dear Father. We want to thank you for our specific workplaces. And Lord, we also want to thank you for the gift of life and the provision, oh dear Father. As we begin this class, oh dear Father, we want to commit our lives to the holy hands, oh dear Father. And we pray that God, may you have wisdom, guidance, protection, provision, your portion this evening and even more days to come, oh dear Father. May you help us pursue your will and guidance with faith and courage, determination, and faith, as the Bible says, oh dear Father. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I intend to do. I want to finish research methods. Remember, we have we are down into data collection. We finished that. Today, I want to touch data analysis, although I know you'll be covering that from the statistics class, but I just want to give you a framework of data analysis. And then quite a large area. I'll try to see how much of it we can cover. And then after that, I will do the significance or the importance of ethics in research, because that's what ties up your chapter 3, observation of ethics. And then I can safely say we have exposed you adequately. And we will then start merging the two classes, mine and the Friday class on thesis writing, to start to guide you in your chapter 1 of your proposal writing. On tomorrow, the class will be at 6, not 5:36, because we lost a lecturer at Daystar, and I'll be from Naivasha. I'm actually in Naivasha for a strategic planning workshop for Kenya Innovation Agency. And then I leave here over lunch and rush to Thika, and then come to do your class at 6, where we'll go back to our leadership classes. Saturday also, God willing, will also continue the leadership. Then I'll be satisfied. I'll have had the makeup that I needed that covers the time I was away in the US. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm tempted. Sometimes I think, no, I should not go back to this. I think I have finished. I think my students are at home with this. Then I feel, no. There is something that I've not yet done, and I must make sure that it is done. So forgive me. Sometimes you see me going up and down. I just want to make sure that we are grounded. Maybe you'll see the value of this when we start writing our thesis. So I just want you to look at this presentation. I don't know if somebody can mute. There's a lot of noise in the background. If you can mute all of us. And I want you to look at this this framework. And this framework is about a quantitative research model. I want to give you 5 minutes. Just look at this and tell me and try to make sense out of it. Then I'll be asking a few questions on that. And this surrounds what we have done so far, surrounding chapter 3 and even parts of chapter 1. Okay. First of all, when I say context-free, objective, and deductive research inquiry, in which paradigm am I sitting? In which paradigm am I sitting? Regina? In which paradigm am I sitting?
I didn't get the question, Professor. Could you kindly repeat?
On top of this frame, there is context-free, objective, and deductive research inquiry. In which space, in which paradigm am I sitting?
I think positivist.
Positivist. It is true. You can say you are sitting in the positivist paradigm, or you are actually engaging in the quantitative strategy. Quantitative. When you see the word context-free, when you see objective, when you see deductive, we are talking about quantitative inquiry. I think I'm hoping by now you know what a research problem is. You know what a research purpose is. You know that if you are engaged in quantitative research methodology, then you used closed-ended questions and you are testing a hypothesis, or you are dealing with hypothesis. So you go out and you do data collection, and now you move to data analysis. So all I'm saying is that we have covered all these things, and now we are remaining with data analysis. We have not talked much about theoretical and conceptual framework.
Excuse me, Prof.
Yes?
Kindly, if you can go back to where you've begun.
Yeah.
On when you do closed-ended questions, you are testing hypothesis. Kindly, where you began from. I want to get that context well.
Yeah. I am saying when something is context-free, it means you don't embed yourself in the area of research. You who went to study the dilemma of Twilight girls in Mombasa, she went into that study context-free, and she mingled with them, but she did not embed herself. She did not carry her emotions, her feelings. She remained objective. and therefore she was engaged in deductive inquiry. Deductive inquiry, you are looking at observation and making deductions. In any research process, you must pick out the research problem. You must have the research purpose, which will then give you the objectives. And when you are developing your tools, you will be using closed-ended questions if you are in the paradigm of quantitative research. And a lot of those questions will be derived from your conceptual framework, which will be carrying the variables of the study. You then set up a hypothesis. I want to repeat. In the quantitative research methodology or paradigm, we either set up research objectives or hypotheses. We don't ask questions. We don't have research questions. No, we give a hypothesis. We give an intelligent guess of what we expect. That's what a hypothesis is. We then collect data the way we discussed: survey, observation, interview, focus group, documentation, and then we analyze the data. So just that framework I put there can almost conclude the whole research method process. So I would like here to ask Eugene to read us this paragraph. Remember, we are now summarizing chapter 3. So I want us to be sure before I do that analysis that we are at home. Read that.
Quantitative research model. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, very well, yeah.
Thank you. Quantitative research model. Quantitative research is generally based on deductive reasoning. After a research problem has been identified, researchers determine the objectives and/or purpose of the study. Based on the purpose and informed by the theoretical and conceptual framework, they develop mainly closed-ended research questions and their corresponding hypotheses. They access the right data sources and collect and analyze data to address the questions and test the hypothesis. In sum, with a quantitative research study, your role is to collect data, to test hypotheses drawn from a theory, model, or group of constructs fulfilling the deductive aspects of this research model. See figure 15.2.
Yes. I'm just emphasizing, I'm top dressing those of us who come from farming areas. Can Caroline Dunge pick it up?
Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
Okay, let me go. Quantitative research model. Another aspect of the quantitative research model is the goal of attaining objective findings. What does it mean to maintain objectivity when conducting a quantitative study? It means recruiting participants in an ethical and systematic way using either a probability or non-probability sampling technique that is free from sampling bias, using a reliable and validated instrument to measure the variables of interest, and conducting appropriate statistical analysis, including assessing whether all the assumptions associated with selected statistical tests are met. The quantitative research model also includes the concept of arriving at a context-free results. With a quantitative study, the findings can be generalized to the population you sampled from, providing you randomly sampled participants for the population. When would you select the quantitative research model for your study? You are more likely to choose the quantitative research model if you plan to collect numeric data, measure specific variables or determine relationships between variables, address closed-ended research questions, and/or test hypotheses, recruit a large sample for your study.
So when do we fall into the quantitative research design for data collection, model for data collection? These are the aspects you would consider. And I'm just emphasizing, the more we walk through this path, the more you'll pick it out. Note, context-free. You will not entangle yourself with the emotions related to that study, or the feelings, or the biases. Now look at this model. Again, I want to give you 3 to 5 minutes. Look at that. Look at that model. Look at that carefully. It is context-based. And this is the language of research. This should be part of your language register. So these terms we are using, context-based, subjective, and inductive research inquiry. You should be building your vocabulary, your register, so that when you see that, you know that, hey, I'm working in the qualitative research paradigm, methodology, or model. There is always a research problem. There is always a research purpose, whether you're doing quantitative or qualitative. You will have to establish a theoretical and conceptual framework. I don't want you to worry about this. We'll come to that in more detail when you're doing your proposals. Note, in this other one, we had closed-ended questions and hypotheses in quantitative research. In this one, we have the phenomenon of study and open-ended research questions. Phenomenon, wedding, socialization, mental health, circumcision, the burden of disease, cancer, diabetes. These are phenomena, poverty. gender bias phenomenon. We use open-ended research questions, and we collect data, we do data analysis. This is the qualitative research methods. Here, we are developing theory. We are trying to build ideas and theory from observation. Here, we are testing the hypothesis to validate the theory. A theory, a model already exists. We want to test its truthfulness. And these are things I want, they should now be sprinkling in your brain. Kama usikii zikizunguka kwa kichwa yako, then we have a problem. Qualitative research model. Doliana Kedogo, are you there? Yes? Not there. Could we have Sylvanus Getare, sorry. Sylvanus, are you there?
Yes.
Prof,
Yes.
Prof, I have a question.
Yeah, please. Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
What would you prefer that your master's students then would use in their research proposal between the two? Thank you.
I will not give, a good question, I will not give any preference. This is not a matter of putting saliva in your palm and tapping on the saliva. This will come out of your topic. It will come out of your literature review. And at master's level, I'll be advising most of you to use both. And again, when we get to disciplined inquiries and the class and thesis, I'll be covering mixed methods in a little more detail so that to interest some of you to know why then wouldn't I be purely qualitative or quantitative. So you'd use both. This should be qualitative. Sorry about the spelling. Let's go. Sylvanus.
Okay. Qualitative research model. Qualitative research is generally based on inductive reasoning. This is because qualitative research involves collecting and analyzing data, leading to the development of a description, explanation, themes, model, or theory for phenomenon of study. Like the quantitative research model, a research inquiry under the qualitative research model starts with having a research problem and objective and/or a purpose statement that are consistent with the problem identified. However, due to the explanatory nature of qualitative research, the research questions are normally open-ended in nature.
Pause. Big mistake. However, due to, what did you say? Come again?
Due to exploratory nature.
Yes, not explanatory.
Yeah, sorry.
This is exploratory. You explore qualitative. You explain quantitative.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, go on.
However, due to the exploratory nature of qualitative research, the research questions are normally open-ended in nature, starting with the words such as what, how, and why, see figure 15.3. Also, the theoretical or conceptual framework can be used to inform how the phenomenon of interest should be studied, the development of the research questions, areas for interview questions to focus on, and how data should be analyzed.
Yes. In other words, I hear my students ask me, if I am doing a qualitative study, do I need a theoretical or conceptual framework? Yes. That is the literature to inform you how the phenomenon of interest should be studied. Do we need a theoretical and conceptual framework in quantitative study? Yes. To be able to validate the theory under question or the model under investigation. So remember, quantitative, explanatory, qualitative, exploratory. This is the language of research. This should enter your language register. Ruth, qualitative research model.
Qualitative research model. Subjectivity encompasses the notion that the researcher is an instrument developing the questions participants will be asked, interviewing participants to extract relevant information from them, making, kindly please the screen, I can't see it, the words at the end.
Oh.
Yes.
Are you able to see?
No, not yet. Yes. No. I think you've, yes,
There?
thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
I thought it's too
fine.
small.
No, go back. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Relevant information from them. No, you leave it at that. Don't put the cursor. I can't see it now.
Wow. Is anybody having the same problem? I don't think so. Can you see it there?
We can see.
It's okay.
We can see. We can see. It's
It's okay,
okay.
Prof.
Okay,
I think
go
she's
ahead.
using her phone.
Yeah.
As I
Go
can
ahead.
see, will be asked interviewing participants to extract relevant information from them and making sense of the data through systematic data analysis and presenting the findings in a way that best represents the relevant data collected and addresses the research questions. Subjectivity in qualitative research is a product of philosophical assumptions associated with doing qualitative research. Cresswell, 2013.
We have lost you, Ruth. Go back.
I go back.
Yeah. Making sense of data. We lost you there. Or I lost you.
Okay, making sense of data through systematic data analysis and presenting the findings in a way that best represents the relevant data collected and addresses the research questions. Subjectivity in qualitative research is the relevant data collected and addresses the research questions. Is a product of philosophical assumptions associated with doing qualitative research. That is by Cresswell, 2013. Ontologically, a qualitative researcher conducts research with the belief that there's more than one truth, and their goal is to capture those multiple perspectives of the phenomenon of study. Epistemologically, to capture the richness of data, a qualitative researcher tends to get closer to both what and who they are studying. However, this kind of closeness could lead the researcher having an influence on both the phenomenon of study and the sources of data. You could overcome this challenge by engaging in bracketing, which is taking note of your preconceptions, biases, and background, and by engaging in, background and preventing them from influencing the study. Axiologically, every knowledge is generated from a particular source. The source, whether it is a group of participants, an organization, or a community, has its identity, values, beliefs, experience, and preconceptions. This background information influences the data extracted from them. In other words, the context is part of the data, helping researchers to make sense of the data as they generate codes, themes, and or theories. Similarly, the context is connected to the qualitative findings. Although generalization is not possible, transferability of the findings is appropriate. Transferability is one of the quality assurance of qualitative research, where qualitative researchers provide rich context so that findings can be transferred to a similar context. When would you select the qualitative research model for your study? You're more likely to choose the qualitative research model if you plan to collect non-numeric data, describe, highlight, explore, understand, or explain a phenomenon study, address open-ended questions, recruit a small sample of your study, or use mixed methods research model.
No. Mixed methods is far, sorry, my mistake. Not
Okay.
part of it.
All right.
Good. I liked this. I was actually deliberate. I wanted to know whether Ruth would be able to pronounce ontologically, epistemologically. This is the language. Axiologically. We met this somewhere. So you see, these are the philosophical underpinnings of the study. But what is important is the subjectivity that is associated with qualitative analysis or data collection. You become part of it. If I went with Wekesa to do research on Abukusu circumcision rites, Wekesa will carry his biases and presumptions to that study. And that will definitely influence the validity and the reliability of the findings. And so in qualitative analysis, we search for the transferability of the findings as a quality assurance. So we look at the rich content, and we look for closeness and similarities between what Ayiro did in his study on the Bukusu and what Wekesa did. It is not a quantitative study where we would be going to establish the attrition rates or the morbidity rate of HIV/AIDS in Kwale County. There we remove ourselves, context-free, and we go to clinics and collect data. And we give the statistics and we predict the trends. And then we say the prevalence of HIV/AIDS, which has been depicted, holds or does not hold. It is important for you to note that if you're doing a qualitative research, you'll collect non-numeric data. So you'll do recordings, you'll do interviews, you'll take pictures to describe, highlight, explore, understand, or explain the phenomenon that you are studying. You'll use open-ended questions and you'll use a small sample. And because it is a small sample, you cannot generalize to the bigger population. In this case here, you are having a large sample. You are using a large sample in quantitative, and therefore it allows you to do or to engage in generalizability of your findings. Ladies and gentlemen, apart from emphasizing the data collection and the models, I'm also introducing you or asking you to build your research language register. So when you see large sample, quickly you know quantitative. Small sample, qualitative. What does large sample mean? I can generalize my findings. What does a small sample mean? I can only engage in transferability. And we shall see how you validate those kind of findings. Finally, mixed methods research model. Maureen Gunjiri, are you there? Maureen?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Let's go.
Mixed methods research model. The mixed methods research model is generally based on both deductive and inductive reasoning. It has both quantitative and qualitative research characteristics that focus on collecting and analyzing both quantitative and qualitative data to help meet the purpose of the study and address the research questions. As described in Chapter 4, when you decide on using the mixed methods research model, you need to then decide on the appropriate type of mixed methods design. The theoretical lens that informs your design, the sequence of implementation of the quantitative and the qualitative phase, when and how both research method components will be mixed, and the weight of the role they will play in the study. Hanson et al. 2005. When would you select the mixed methods research model for your study? You are more likely to choose the mixed methods research model if you plan to, 1, collect both numeric and non-numeric data, 2, use both quantitative and qualitative data collection strategies, 3, recruit a large and small sample for the quantitative and qualitative phase, respectively.
Wonderful. I am being mean with mixed methods because I am a professor of mixed methods research, and we will be engaging in this more deeply as you develop your proposals. If I find time after data analysis, I can spend maybe 1 hour just going through the structure of mixed methods, which we have met before, but for emphasis so that we are clear. I thought I would do this to be convinced that we have adequately placed data collection where it belongs. So I now want to move to data analysis. I want to move to data analysis. And I'll want to try to cover this in a different way, because I'm aware that you are carrying on with this under statistics. So what I want to do is to give you a sketch of data analysis and then re-emphasize some points and then move on. So we are doing analysis and interpretation of data, maybe not interpretation. And I hope you can all see my screen, I hope. But this is what it is. Analysis and interpretation provide answers to the research questions that you'll have set up in your study. What does analysis mean? Analysis means the ordering, manipulating, and summarizing of data to obtain answers to research questions. Its purpose is to reduce data to intelligible and interpretable form so that the relations of the research problem can be studied and tested. I want you to note that one of the purpose of research is to reduce data, And many people will tell you that research in general is reductionist in nature. So you go and collect these whole baskets and baskets of data. You synthesize the data, you order, you manipulate, you summarize, and then you begin to interpret and address the research problems. So in a very revealing way, research is reductionist in nature. And we'll be seeing this as we go on. Interpretation gives the results of analysis, makes inferences to the research relations studied, and draws conclusions about these relations. So this is your A. After chapter 3, your chapter 4 is called data interpretation, analysis and interpretation. What does that mean? You studied literature, you read other people's works. Now you have your results. You will now relate your results to the results of the people who went before you in their studies. And you'll be telling us whether your results align themselves to the findings of Newton 2010, or they are contrary to the findings of Onyango et al. 2021. That is what is called discussion and interpretation of results. So we don't just get results and then we say hallelujah and we have finished. No, you must now go back. You must now go back to your literature review and find out what was said about these aspects. What did so-and-so say about the cattle rustling in Kipevu or wherever? My findings are saying this. I think, ladies and gentlemen, I just trust that you're working with me, because if you are, then many of you, first of all, will get your masters on time. And we are targeting 100%, but you know, that's us, but I don't know. I'm hoping that we can beat the odds and get 95% to 100 of you graduating, barring for other unwanted interruptions. But if you're understanding what I'm saying now, you just build on this on your PhD. In fact, by the time you're finishing your coursework in your PhD, already some of you will have their proposals for the PhD ready. Statistics. And I want, there's a book written called Statistics for People Who Hate Statistics. I don't know whether there are any on this call. That's normally the book I use to teach statistics, because it has a lot of cartoons, a lot of jokes, and people, before they realize, they have understood and done so many calculations in statistics. So statistics is simply a tool in research. In fact, according to Leedy, statistics is a language which, through its own special symbols and grammar, takes the numerical facts of life and translates them meaningfully. So statistics thus gathers numerical data. The variation of the data gathered are abstracted based on group characteristics and combined to serve the purpose of description, analysis, interpretation, and possible generalization. Note generalization. So this is deducing from the sample and mapping it to the bigger population. According to McGuinn, 1987, in research, this is known as the process of concatenation, where the statements are chained together with other statements. We will illustrate this later on. There are two kinds of statistics. We have descriptive statistics, allows the researcher to describe the population or sample used in the study. And there are inferential statistics, which draws inferences from sample data and actually deals with answering the research questions postulated, which are in some cases cause and effect relationships. So inferential statistics try to tell us there is a cause and effect between the variables in the study. Descriptive statistics, you're just telling us the demographics, the spread of the population or the sample. So descriptive statistics describes the characteristics of the population or the sample. And I literally mean that. Descriptive statistics is intended to describe the characteristics of the population or sample. That's what I'm saying. To make them meaningful, they are grouped according to the following measures. I'm sure this is what you're doing with Dr. Laban Chesang. Measures of central tendency, the average. And by the way, anything after this, anything after the average or the mean, all these things are rotating around the measure of central tendency. So the measure of dispersion or variability is just how far we are away from the center or the mean. Measures of non-central location, those are the ones that are on the periphery, and there are some of the stubborn statistics. If you have a normal distribution curve, they are the ones on the end there. Measures of symmetry or asymmetry, you are only saying how close we are to the mean or how far away we are away from the mean. Measures of pickedness or flatness, you are also telling us how the concentration in the center is moving up. Are we moving in the center, or are we giving you a normal continuum or the normal distribution curve? So for me, in handling statistics, I put a lot of emphasis on measures of central tendency, because all these other aspects are actually putting the mean into consideration, then asking how far away are you from the mean? How many of you are aggregated towards the mean? How many of you have a high concentration at the mean level to cause pickedness or flatness? Measures of central tendency or averages. These include the mean, the mode, and the median. And the mean is a measure obtained by adding all the values in a population or sample and dividing by the number of values that are added. Very simple. So we know how to get the average of values. The mode is simply the most frequent score of scores, and the median is the value above and below which 1/2 of the observations fall. Very straightforward things. So these are measures of central tendency. And when you're learning statistics, I'm sure you go into depth, you look at a few examples. Measures of dispersion or variability. So you must know what is variance, what is standard deviation, and what is the range. So a measure of dispersion conveys information regarding the amount of variability present in a set of ideas. So variance, standard deviation, and range are just measures of variability. Variability from where? From the mean. And there are mathematical approaches to this, and I hope you're meeting them in your statistics. I'm really avoiding to get into the calculations, but when you are doing your studies, when you'll be doing your analysis, we shall support you in interpretation. So the variance is a measure of the dispersion of the set of scores. It tells us how much the scores are spread out. Thus, the variance is a measure of the spread of scores. It describes the extent to which the scores differ from each other about the mean. Yeah. So it's about the mean, the variance. Standard deviation thus refers to the deviation of scores from the mean. Are you noticing the centrality of the mean in statistics? In fact, I always say every statistical index or all the indices in statistics dance around the mean. When ordinal measures of 1 to 5 scales, low to high, are used, data most likely have standard deviations of less than 1 unless the responses are extremes. So we shall see the distribution along the standard deviation from the normal distribution curve. The range is defined as the difference between the highest and lowest scores. This is the easiest. The range between the highest and the lowest scores gives us the mean. Gives us the range, sorry. Measures of non-central location. I don't know where you are in statistics, but these include the quantiles, percentiles, deciles, and quantiles. The word percent means per 100. Therefore, in using percentages, size is standardized by calculating the number of individuals who would be in a given category if the total number of cases were 100, and if the proportion in each category remains the same. Since proportions must add to unity, it is obvious that percentages will sum up to 100 unless the categories are not mutually exclusive or exhaustive. Again, percentage, we all know what it is. But now you'll be talking in terms of percentiles and deciles in this case. So these are measures of non-central location. Then measures of symmetry or asymmetry. This includes skewness of the frequency distribution. I'll be showing you some graphs later on. But sometimes results are skewed to the right. I've seen some of you in your schools, the skewness is satanic. Yeah. You find all the students are aggregated towards the left. So you have phenomenal number of A's and B pluses. Or they are skewed to the right, which means you have students starting with C minus, to D's to E's. If a distribution is asymmetrical and the larger frequencies tend to be concentrated toward the lower end of the variable and the smaller frequencies towards the higher end, it is said to be positively skewed. And if the opposite holds, the larger frequencies being concentrated towards the high end of the variable and the smaller frequencies towards the lower end, the distribution is said to be negatively skewed. This don't bother about this, and you're not going to memorize this. You will look at the graphs and we tell you this one is positively skewed, this one is negatively skewed. And then you will understand why is it positively skewed and what does that mean? Why is it negatively skewed vis-a-vis the variables under study? Measures of pickedness or flatness of one distribution in relation to another is what we call kurtosis. Those of you who are mathematically oriented, this is just easy stuff. If one distribution is more peaked than another, it may be spoken of as more leptokurtic. And if it is less peaked, it is said to be platykurtic. But those are not things I want you to memorize at all. You will observe them in your graphs. Now, these are non-parametric tests. Please note, there are two types of data in statistics. There is parametric and there's non-parametric data. And students get nervous about this. Parametric data are measured data, and parametric statistical tests assume that the data are normally or really normally distributed. When you have normal distribution data, it is said to be parametric. Non-parametric data are distribution-free samples, which implies they are free or independent of the population distribution. So they are not tied to a distribution path, and we call them non-parametric. Later on, we shall label these as descriptive and inferential, but I don't want to get into that. The tests on these data do not rest on the more stringent assumption of normal distributed population. That just means you don't take hypothetical situations when you're looking at your own data. I don't want to get into these tests. I'll leave them out. Even the Spearman rank, order correlation, and the rest, that you'll cover in your statistics class. The Mann-Whitney U-test and the others, you'll cover then. But I'll give you the notes if you want to, out of interest. Appropriate statistical methods based on the research problem and the levels of measurement. Now, the statistical methods appropriate to any studies are always determined by the research problem and the measurement scale of the variables used in the study. That's why if I'm supervising you, I'll be very sensitive to the topic. I'll also be very sensitive to the number of variables that will be appearing in your topic, because zitaleta maneno huko mbele, particularly if it involves quantitative data. So some of the tests is the chi-square, and this is the most commonly used non-parametric test. And it simply compares between observed and theoretical frequencies, and in testing the mathematical fit of a frequency curve to an observed frequency distribution. I don't want you to sit down memorizing that. No. I want you to interpret the results of a chi-square. What does it mean when you have a chi-square value of this from your ANOVA table, for example? The t-test provides the capability of computing t-tests and levels of testing, whether or not the difference between two sample means is significant. So when you do a t-test, you're looking at two samples, and you're looking at performance of girls in maths, performance of boys in maths, and you work out, you take that data, put it on the SPSS, and do the analysis, which is done by the computers. You get a result. and your value of the t-test will tell you whether or not the difference between the two samples means is significant. So is there a significant difference between the performance of maths between boys and girls in Kabarak High School? You use a t-test. So if somebody asks me, what's the value of a t-test? It's just to test the difference between two sample means and know whether it is significant. And here significance means the possibility within a range, usually within a range of 0.1 to 0.5. And that will tell you whether it is significant or not. So this type of analysis, the t-test, is the comparison of two groups of subjects with the group means as the basis for comparison. So you do the mean of group 1, the mean of group 2, then you do a t-test, and it will tell you the difference. And there are types of t-tests. I don't think at this level I want you to worry yourself with that. Just know the value of a t-test because you'll find it when you're doing your data analysis. Correlation analysis is used when one is interested to know the relationship between two or more paired variables. This is where interest is focused primarily on the exploratory task, quantitative, exploratory task of finding out which variables are related to a given variable. Again, this is best demonstrated when we are dealing with actual values. Good. And that is if I was teaching statistics, I would then just amplify and give you examples around descriptive statistics, mean, mode, and median. Then I would give you some calculation around standard deviation, variation, whether you are able to, and variance, and then move on and see whether we can do the F test, the T test, and the chi-square test, and then the correlation. Very, very simple. And then you'll meet them when you have brought your results from the field. The class is very quiet. I'm very scared. Is the class there? Ama mmekimbia nyote.
We are
We are
listening.
here. We are here.
Thank you.
We are here, Prof.
That is good. I thought you had all run away. And yes,
Prof,
then Amadiang, yes.
you have an amazing voice. I think you should insure it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, not that I hate statistics, but that book you've mentioned, we must get it.
Yes. It is. I'll sit with your statistics teacher so that we can share some examples. Let me give you a story. I was brought up by a couple, a Jewish couple, when I was young, and I hated maths. I hated maths to the letter. And I had just come from Bagadi Primary Bagadi Primary is between Bagadi Hospital and Kibera. And then I went to Nairobi Primary because this was Ugus had taken me on. And my Jewish father was a professor of maths at Nairobi University. And the mother was a pathologist. So they were high-rated scientists. So I kept on coming home with the marks like 10, 9 in maths. And for the Jewish person, there is nothing as valuable as education. In fact, they kept on telling me, not Laban, but Laban, education is the only portable investment. The only portable investment. So we used to have stamps on letters with the Queen, with the Lion, with Mount Kenya, with Nyerere, with Kenyatta stamps. And I used to collect stamps and put them in an album. Maybe this generation, most of you wouldn't really get what I'm saying. But he came to my room and said he noticed I loved collecting stamps. And he told me, Laban, if you can only come home with 30 marks in maths, this is a little kid in class 3. If you can come home with 30% in maths, I'll buy you a stamp album. I started doing a lot of maths because I wanted that album very badly. Within 1 month, I was in the 30s. Within another month, I was in the 50s, 60s. And he bought me, but then after that, he made sure he brought me 2 psalms every night. For the 4 years I stayed with them. That not gifted. No. Everybody, there is a normal distribution curve. So everybody is supposed to be along that normal distribution curve, with the exceptionals on both ends. The very bright and those who are struggling. And anybody who is in a master's class should not be told, or should not have a mindset that says, I can't do. So we will try to use many examples from that book, because that book helped a lot. And when I went for my postdoc, we were co-teaching statistics at PhD in the US. And you know, most of those people come to class when they have already done the calculations before you. So that also put me on my toes with my colleague, the professor. I sat in the class for 2 weeks just to see how they're teaching. Statistics is the easiest course you can come across. It is, I would rather teach statistics, I would rather learn statistics than research methods. Yeah. So we will try. And when we have the seminars in Mwaka's class, the one on Friday, and then when I start discipline inquiry, we shall be plowing through these things, and eventually you'll find there's nothing difficult. So, you know, just be encouraged with your teacher, and we should be able to get you loving statistics. Yeah, I can see somebody who knows what I'm talking about with the stamps in the album, collecting stamps. It was such a hobby those days, yes. Any comment on that? I'm still under that analysis. I have not gone anywhere. I've just done the first part. There are still 2 more presentations until mpaka tuanze kunoga kidogo. Si mnajua next week kuna mtihani wa majaribio on data analysis, data collection, data analysis, and of course APA 7th edition. Yeah. Yes, Othello. You have something to say? No. Anybody? Anybody?
May I say something, Prof?
Yes, Samisi.
I'm listening. You're saying next week we have some quiz of some sort on
Ni jaribio tu, yeah.
lakini hiyo APA 7th edition we have not covered.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll be okay with that collection and data analysis, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, that would be better.
All right. I want us to go on. But what I'll do is we will have the quiz then on Are we able to see this slide?
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is I'm just reinforcing data analysis so that we get it into perspective, analyzing and interpreting quantitative data. I'll do quantitative data, then I'll do qualitative data. Then we'll look at mixed methods. This is my book, A Functional Approach to Education Research Methods and Statistics, this one. It is online, but I've now done a version that is with KLB. I hope it will be out soon. So, it is hoped that you'll be able to identify the steps in the process of analyzing and interpreting quantitative data. You describe the process of preparing your data for analysis. You'll identify the procedures for analyzing your data. You learn how to report the results of analyzing your data and describe how to interpret the results. Steps in the, sorry, let me end this show. Sorry about that. So steps in the process of quantitative data analysis: prepare the data for analysis, conducting the data analysis, reporting the results, interpreting the results. How do you prepare the data for analysis? Inputting data. Again, I'm hoping that in the statistics course, you will look at the packages and be able to put it on a simple spreadsheet or using the SPSS. Score data by assigning numeric codes to responses, create a code book, use information from instruments when possible as part of the coding scheme, create a data file in the data grid, create a variable labels, clean database, and the missing values. This sounds Greek, but I'm sure you'll be put through simple procedures on mounting data onto a spreadsheet and importing or transporting that spreadsheet into the SPSS. Determine types of scores to analyze: single item, summed scores, different scores. Again, this is SPSS. I would like to advise, don't run to too many programs, Python, SAS, and so on. Just stick to SPSS for now. In fact, it's the most popular program for statistical analysis. I also don't want you to have a headache. If you're not good at it, you can still get support in analyzing using SPSS. There in our data library, and there are support people who can help you to do this and mount your data onto the platform and then start getting the results that you're looking for. And then conducting descriptive analysis. I have told you, most of you actually won't go beyond descriptive analysis in your analysis. Very few will try correlation. So I don't expect people to go really deep into inferential statistics right now. But you will be expected. This one you are sure of. You must do measures of central tendency. That is the mean, the median, the mode. Measures of variability, you'll be expected to do that. Describes the spread of the scores, the range, the standard deviation. Remember the range, we have already said, is the difference between the highest and lowest scores. The standard deviation is the standard distance the scores are away from the mean. And then we're still under descriptive analysis, measures of relative standing, the percentile rank, the percentage of participants in the distribution with scores at or below a particular score. And then the calculated scores enables a researcher to compare scores from different scales. Then there is a Z-score. In Americans say Z-scores, the others call it Z. A popular form of the standard score has a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. And then descriptive statistics basically is variability, either the central tendency, mean, median, mode, or variance, standard deviation and range, or relative standing, the Z-score and the percentile ranks. This is all. And maybe some of you will give us aspects of standard deviation, others will do the mean, mainly those percentages. Frequencies are rotating around the mean and the median and the mode. And then some of you can deal with percentiles, but that should not be something to give you sleepless nights. Inferential statistics, I want you to know this test, the t-test. Very important test. If you have two groups and you are measuring a certain variable between those two groups, in each group you work out the mean. Then you do a t-test to see whether there is a significant difference between the means. If there isn't, then you reject the hypothesis. If there is, then you uphold the hypothesis, depending on how it was stated. Analysis of variance, ANOVA. Again, many of us imagine this to be impossible things, but what is analysis of variance? If I was teaching statistics, analysis of variance is again looking at now not two groups, but more than two groups, and looking at the means and the differences between the means. And then, of course, there is the chi-square, where now you're dealing with non-parametric data. Pearson correlation, a very easy thing. It ranges from 1, highest from 0 to 1. If the Pearson value is something like 7, that means there's a very strong correlation. If it is very close to 0, there's a very little variation between the two. So, for example, at Moi Referral Hospital, we did a study. We are trying to establish a correlation between the rainy season and the deliveries at the mother and baby hospital in Eldoret. We wanted to know whether there was a correlation between raining and deliveries. And when we did the study, we found a Pearson correlation we dealt with about 200 mothers across the rainy season between March and June. And we found a correlation of about 0 plus 0.5, which means rain, deliveries at that hospital correlated to the rainfall. But is that a causal relationship? Of course not. Doesn't mean rain causes deliveries. No. It just means that there's a correlation. There is a relationship. So that is the Pearson. Then there's multiple regression. You look at performance of a school as your dependent variable. Performance of a school as a dependent variable. The independent variables, the things influencing performance, is staffing levels in the school, 1. Payment of fees, instructional materials availability, and level of education of the parents. So you take those 4 variables, and they all, in one way or another, influence the performance in that high school. So you set up what is called a regression model. You want to find out what is the influence of instructional materials? What is the influence of the education of the parent? What is the influence of payment of fees? So you set up a model on SPSS, and it will tell you that 0.2, factor 0.2 is attributed to instructional materials. 0.3 is about payment of fees. 0.1 is parents' education. And then you have a model, and the model, you will now ask, what is the best fit for that model? Overall fit, maybe it is 0.6. So you'll say these 4 factors influence performance by over 60%. That's what a regression model is. And now you can isolate the variables that mostly influence. If you find payment of fees is a very strong variable, then the headmaster of a school has to work out ways, devise ways to make sure that parents are paying fees. If instructional materials is a very strong, comes out with a strong factor, then you have to make sure that the school has books, has facilities in order to enhance performance. So these are not, don't look at these things as statistics out of context. So none of these should really worry you, these inferential, these aspects that you'll come across. Conducting inferential analysis, please note that you are actually testing a hypothesis, and note that there's a confidence interval depending on the statistical values in question. I'm sure that you'll meet in your statistics. And then conducting inferential analysis, we look at the effect size. This is very important in meta-analysis. Those of you, I hope I can get 1 or 2 of you to be courageous enough to do a meta-analysis for their thesis. Then conducting hypothesis test, identify a null or the alternative hypothesis, set it up, let the level of significance for rejecting the hypothesis be known. Is it at 0.1 or 0.5? Collect the data, compute the sample statistically, or the sample statistic, whether it is T, whether it is ANOVA, whether it is regression, set it up, and make a decision statistic. Again, determine the type of quantitative research question or hypothesis you want to analyze. Identify the number of independent variables, identify the number of dependent variables, identify whether covariates and the number of covariates are used in the research question or hypothesis. This is the work of your supervisor as you work on your analysis. Selecting an appropriate statistic, consider the scale of measurement for your independent variable in the research question. Identify the scale of measurement for the independent variable. Is it a continuous or categorical? Determine if the distribution of the scores is normal or skewed. So those are aspects that you'll be dealing with as you do analysis with your supervisor. I'm sure you've met this. This is the mean, measure of central tendency. These are the standard deviations. 3 to your left, 3 to your right, and this is called the normal distribution curve. Normal distribution curve. So we expect most people to be between here, 34 plus 34, here, between -1 and +1. These are the extremes. And a normal distribution curve is what we expect. What most of you do in school is you try to disfigure the normal distribution curve. When you hear a school is working very hard, for example, you are simply moving this way. You're moving this way, having it skewed to the left. But a school that doesn't work very hard, it is skewed to the right. So you're playing with the normal distribution curve. And sometimes it raises many questions as such. So the normal curve of mean differences of all possible outcomes, if the null hypothesis is true, you can see high probability values. If the null hypothesis is true, the center there. This is extremely low probability values. People getting those E's. And this is also extremely low. People getting those A's. But sometimes you find this whole curve has been skewed towards this side. Then it will tell you whether to reject or uphold your null hypothesis. We have talked about the null and alternate hypothesis with type 1 and type 2 errors. This we shall come when you are doing our discipline inquiry, when we are doing specific cases in analysis. And then reporting your results, statistical results. You'll be required to summarize information, present in a table, organize the data. This is how you bring out the SPSS profile, which is then analyzed automatically on your computer. Figures, charts, pictures, drawings, portray variables, so percentages, frequencies, pie charts, all those things are all part of the descriptive analysis that we are talking about. And then reporting the results, detailed explanations about statistical results, report whether the hypothesis test was significant or not, provide important information about the statistical test, and include language typically used in reporting statistical results. Language register of suggest future research, end on a positive note. So discussion of results, you are saying how your results look like the results of what you read in your literature review. This is for quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis. Now, we then have, and you'll get all these slides, so don't panic. You then have, let me see, this is interpretation. Let me share. You then have analyzing and interpreting qualitative results. This is the same like we did. I won't go through this, but here, 5 steps in analyzing and interpreting your qualitative data. Prepare and organize the data for analysis. Explore the data through coding. Use codes to develop description and themes. By the way, you'll be made to go through all this, coding and theming and so on. Representing the findings through narratives and visuals, making an interpretation of the meaning of the findings, and conducting a validation of the accuracy of your findings. And then the process of data analysis. This is very important. First of all, the researcher codes the data, locates text segments and assignments, and assigns a code to the label. Maybe we should start here. The researcher collects data, a text file such as field notes, transcriptions, optically scanned material, what you have brought from the field. The researcher prepares the data for analysis, transcribes the field notes, if you are recording them. Then the researcher reads through the data, obtaining general sense of the material. Then the researcher codes the data, locates text segments, and assigns a code to label them. Then codes the text for description to be used in the research report. Then codes the text for themes to be used in the research report. So after coding your data, let me go through this again. You have collected data from your interviews, your field notes, your pictures, your documents. You come, you prepare data for analysis. You transcribe the field notes. Then you read through the data. You obtain general sense of material. And then you do coding of the data, locate text segments and assign, and you assign them and label them. We shall be showing you an example of that. So what do you get from your data? That's why I told you research is reductionist. What do you get from your data? After all this, you now have codes, you code the text for description to be used in the report. So you end up with codes for description, and then codes the text for themes. So after all this, you're coming out with a description. From all that, you're coming out with a description, and you're coming out with themes. So if you came out with pages and some material, this is all that you end up with. You end up with descriptions and themes, or categories and themes. And this is what you'll put in your research report. All these things that you are collecting have been reduced into description and themes. And then preparing and organizing the data, you develop a matrix or table of sources that can be used to organize the material. You organize the material by type. You keep duplicate copies of materials. You transcribe data. You prepare data for hand or computer analysis. Nowadays, NVivo and the others for qualitative analysis are there. Then exploring the data. You obtain a general sense of the data by performing a preliminary exploratory analysis, because it is qualitative. You read through field notes and interviews several times to get a sense of the interview and the observation. You write memos in the margins of interviews or field notes of your initial reflections of the data. Then you consider whether more data are needed. So you are exploring the data you have collected around that phenomenon of poverty in the slums of Nairobi. You go through the data, you begin to look for categories, similar things, causes of poverty, education, joblessness. So those becomes now categories where you put the data you are collecting. And then after that, you begin to theme. So what are the main themes that relate to poverty in the slums of Nairobi? Is education, is lack of jobs, is disease, is tribalism. You add up all those, and then you give us your findings. Coding the data, read through the transcripts, start with one transcript, identify text segments, ask, what is this person saying? Bracket text segment, assign code word, 1, 2, 3 words that describe what is being said. Terms from the literature can be used. You'll have read the literature. Where possible, use the participants' actual words. Actual words. So you quote actual words or you quote verbatim. Then practice lean coding. I'll come to that in a short while. I want us to pause here. It's now 7:35. We'll take 15-minute break and then we come back. I'm just exposing you to this whole area of data analysis. If you are doing data analysis quantitatively, if you are doing data analysis qualitatively, you must walk into your proposal writing when you know the magnitude of the undertaking. So there's chapter 1, there's chapter 2, there's chapter 3. And now this data analysis is actually in chapter 4. So we have actually gone up to chapter 4 of the thesis. So take a break. Let us resume at in 15 minutes time. Let's resume at 10 to 8 and we'll carry on from there. Very good. We want to resume. Everybody, welcome back. Get everybody to come back. Analysis of quantitative data, most of you will find it much easier because it is SPSS, and then you instruct the program and it gives you the results, and then you are ready to go. But qualitative data, and I want to spend some time here, and I really want your attention. Qualitative data, many of us say, you know me, statistics are very tough. I will not go that route. Not knowing that you cannot also analyze data easily, qualitative data, if you don't have grounding in language. Very, very important. So my advice is usually carry no biases, and we shall adapt a mixed methods approach, and you'll find the load is lighter. I'm hoping that people are back because I want to go through this very meticulously. Remember, after cleaning your data, exploring your data, you then get to coding of your data. And you read through all the transcripts. You start with one. You identify text segments. There are common things that will be said as you are interviewing these people about deliveries of mothers out of hospital. You'll bracket text segments that are common. You'll assign a code word like safety of the mothers. 1 or 2, 3 words that describe what is being said. And you'll use terms from the literature that you'll have read. And we'll expect you to be using some of the participants' actual words. And then you practice lean coding. I'm going to show you where you now reduce the codes to a very small number. The next one is include codes that describe the participants and site. Reduce redundancy. Reductionist. Whether it is quantitative or qualitative, you move from large to the small number. In fact, like in quantitative, you'll end up with a regression model or a statistic, T statistic value or F statistic or chi-square statistic from all that data. In qualitative, you end up with themes. So take out codes that are duplicate ideas reduced to a manageable list. Collapse codes into themes, which are the major ideas that emerge from the data, the ideas the participants most frequently discuss, are unique or surprising, have the most evidence to support them, or those you might expect to find when studying the phenomenon. initially read through the data, many pages of text, divide text into segments of information, many segments of text, label segments of information with codes, maybe 30 to 40 codes, then reduce to 20. You aggregate similar meanings of the words, reduce overlap and
Prof, are you there? Hi, everyone. Probably is out of net. Let's just give him some time. Otherwise, you can engage with the. Let me look. Let me also look at him. I think Prof will be joining in a moment. So if you have any question, you can type them there so that when Prof is here, he can answer. Just answer any questions. Ask any questions there so that we can engage. There's a power outage in the hotel is in Naivasha, so he'll be back. Yes, any questions? If you have any questions, you can just post it there.
Dr. Yuya, you're also breaking, unless it is my connection.
Am I being? I just said if you have any question, you can type there. Yeah, there are many theses in the. If you want to check on a thesis, just go to the library. I don't know if what you mean by research studies. I don't know whether you mean what you said. Do you have any research projects in the library? Yes, there's so many, not just our library. You need to expand your scope of always data checks up in the basis. You can put your question there, and then you can answer. There are many studies. Even if you just Google Professor Laban Ayiro, just as a name alone study, you'll find so many has done, and anybody else.
Boaz, is Boaz around? Boaz, can you
Yes,
hear me?
Oh, you're asking Boaz, you can answer the question
Hello, I'm
from
around.
Othello.
Hello, I'm around. Thank you.
You know, I've been having problem with my microphone. It is just now coming on. Even when I want to ask question, I can't ask because people don't hear me. Prof, when Prof says, okay, speak, he can't hear me. I've been having problem throughout the evening. Now it's just working.
That is good, Othello.
Okay?
But we can hear you so well.
Yeah, now it has started working. Oh, that's what I was trying to tell.
All right. Nobody's answering Othello's question or his dilemma.
Okay, let me greet the class. I was about to type this greeting on the chat, but now I can, since Prof is not here yet, I can just greet. Yeah, greetings from Dr. Susan. She has wished all
back.
of you the best. She says she's praying for us to finish in record time. She's missing us. I just met with her. It was the first time I met with her physically. I didn't even know she sat. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Caro, I'm trying to come back. Huh?
Oh, Prof is back. Thank you.
Yes. I really want you to pay attention.
Yes, Prof, you can pick it on. Prof. I think there's any projects in the library.
Yeah, I really want you to pick it. I want you to really pay attention. Analysis of qualitative data is not an easy matter. Analysis of quantitative data is easier because you need a very high mastery of language and understanding. So I was on coding and I had reached here where you are actually reducing those pages and pages and pictures and what of text into codes, and you end up with about 20 codes at this level. Then you reduce overlap and redundancy of codes, and then you collapse codes into themes, and you end up with between 5 and 7 themes. It's not a miracle number. All I'm saying is you are reducing the text into codes and then codes into themes. And that requires a very high level of language. So using codes to build description, describe people, events, activities, and processes, and you describe in detail. But of course, you have tons and tons of notes. Let's look at this example. Let's look at this example. And please walk with me. I would like, is Machio on the line? Is she back? If not, we can have Cindy or Esther Jane.
Yes, Prof.
Yes, are you able to forget about type of description? Just read us this text because I want to bring out something important. Building a descriptive passage.
Okay.
Yes.
The incident occurred on the campus of a large public university in a Midwestern
Just a
city.
minute. Just a minute. I'm trying to get blown up a little more. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Let's go. That, yeah.
All right. The incident occurred on the campus of a large public university in a Midwestern city. A decade ago, this city had been designated an all-American city, but more recently, its normally tranquil environment has been disturbed.
It's normally what?
Tranquil.
No, tranquil.
Okay, tranquil environment has been disturbed by an increasing number of assaults and homicides. Some of these violent incidents have involved students at the university. The incident that provoked this study occurred on a Monday in October. A 43-year-old graduate student enrolled in a senior level actuarial science class arrived a few minutes before class, armed with a vintage Korean War military semi-automatic rifle loaded with a 30-round
Semi-automatic.
Semi-automatic rifle loaded with a 30-round clip of 30 caliber ammunition. He carried another 30-round ammunition.
Yes.
Ammunition. He carried another 30-round clip in his pocket. 20 of the 34 students in the class had already gathered for class, and most of them were quietly reading the student newspaper. The instructor was en route to class. The gunman pointed the rifle at the students, swept it across the room, and pulled the trigger. The gun jammed. Trying to unlock the rifle, he hit the butt of it on the instructor's desk and quickly tried firing it again. Again, it did not fire. By this time, most students realized what was happening and dropped to the floor, overturned their desks, and tried to hide behind them. After about 20 seconds, one of the students shoved a desk into the gunman, and students ran past him out into the hall and out of the building. The gunman hastily departed the room.
Yes. Now, I want to show building a descriptive passage. Look at what she has read. Type of description. Remember, I want you to remember this. We have a text and want to reduce it, remove redundancies, then collapse the codes which constitute the descriptions into themes. So look at this. Here, description builds from broad to narrow. This is a city, called this Nakuru city, and then it comes to the narrow. From an all-American city, and now we are walking into a university. And then here, situate the reader in place. So where did this happen? In a university. And now we get to the details of this student, 40-year-old graduate student. And he was carrying a Korean War military semi-automatic rifle loaded with a 30-round clip of 30 caliber ammunition. Details. Look at here. The gunman pointed the rifle at the students, swept it across the room, and pulled the trigger. Detail to create a sense of being there. You are letting us know what was going on in there. And then, after about 20 seconds, the gun didn't take off. One of the students shoved a desk into the gunman, and students ran past him out into the hall and out of the building. Use action verbs and vivid modifiers and adjectives. Nimesema ya kwamba kama una mori ya kufanya utafiti ukitumia mpangilio huu, basi itabidi Kiingereza chako kiwe kinaeleweka sana. Sana. That's what I'm trying to emphasize here. Building a discrete package. Now, look at this. Out of all this, it will be mid-city university. Gunman with a rifle. Then trying to shoot without success. And then intervention of a student who knocked him down. That whole of this description will be turned into maybe 2 or 3 codes and maybe 1 or 2 themes.
Excuse me, Prof.
Using codes to identify themes, ordinary themes, unexpected themes, social science themes, layering and connecting themes. You cannot give me a convincing thesis, a qualitative thesis, if I don't see layering and connecting themes. Use codes to build description. Describe people, events, activities, processes, as shown. Sorry, this has jumped. So using codes to identify themes, ordinary, unexpected, peculiar, layering, and connecting themes. Look at this passage. Coding used in theme passage. I want us to read this, and I want you to pay attention, because you might not be taught coding and analysis again. You will use it when you are doing your thesis. Faith Nzuki, are you online? Or Festus? Laparaco?
Yeah.
Leparaco?
Yes, I'm online.
Are you clear?
Yes.
No.
Excuse me, Prof. Before we go to the next reading, can I just say something
Yeah,
regarding
go
the
ahead.
effort?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
But can I have
I
just
see.
a minute? Can I have Francis Ochami or Festus? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I was saying that the piece that we read, to me, it's almost like this person is a journalist. This is how we do things in journalism. In our situation, in a media, we call this color. When you vividly describe a situation and put the listener or the reader or the viewer at the scene of the incident, you transport the reader or the listener or the viewer to the scene.
So this is just giving you a glimpse of what I expect when you're going to do data analysis as a qualitative researcher. Pick it up. One of you, I called the name, whoever is ready.
City. The balance in the city that university students and the subsequent.
I can't hear you properly. Faith, I can't hear you. Are you people able to hear Faith clearly, or is me?
No, she's very unclear.
Yeah.
I guess our network is the problem.
Can somebody else pick it up?
Okay.
Where are the gentlemen I called out?
I'm here, Prof. Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. The violence in the city that involved university students.
No, you have missed something very important. Hey, something very important.
All right.
Coding used in theme passage, yes.
Coding used in theme passage. Coding used in theme passage. Safety.
Yeah,
The violence
safety,
in the city.
safety is the theme. Yes.
Yes. The violence used, the violence in the city that involved university students and the subsequent gun incident that occurred in a campus classroom shocked the typically tranquil campus. That's not very clear, Prof. The next line is a bit obstructed. A counselor aptly summed up the feelings of many. When the students walked out of that classroom, their world had become very chaotic. It had become very random. Something had happened that robbed them of their sense of safety. Concern for safety became a central reaction for many informants. When the Chief Student Affairs officers described the administration's reaction to the incident, he listed the safety of students in the classroom as his primary goal, followed by the needs of the news media for details about the case, helping all students with psychological stress, and providing public information on safety. As he talked about the safety issue and the presence of guns on campus, he mentioned that a policy was under consideration for the storage of guns used by students for hunting. Within 4 hours after the incident, a press conference was called during which the press was briefed, not only on the details of the incident, but also on the need to ensure the safety of the campus. Soon thereafter, the university administration initiated an informational campaign on campus safety. A letter describing the incident was sent to the university board members. One board member asked, "How could such an incident happen at this university?"
Yes. Now look here. Look across everybody. Title for the theme based on the words of participants is safety. If you look in that first paragraph, typically tranquil campus is referring to safety. You come here, they're talking about the world had become very chaotic, reference to safety. Something had happened that robbed them of their sense of safety. Concern for safety became a central reaction for many informants. So safety becomes the title for the theme based on the words of the participants. Now, evidence for themes based on multiple perspectives of participants, multiple perspectives. Chief Student Affairs Officer had this to say: you'll go on and you find what was then taken up by the press conference. So within the theme of safety, there are sub-themes on campus safety, on measures to ensure safety of the campus. This is what I am talking about, that research is reductionist in nature. And this is the business of coding and then aggregating the codes into a theme. And you can see the title of the theme here, all this is about safety. So evidence is rotating around safety, and within the theme of safety, there are sub-themes which lead to safety. Representing the findings, a table used to compare groups on one theme, a demographic table on individual participants and the research site, a hierarchical Tree, a diagram that visually represents the theme and their interconnections, figures and diagrams, a visual description that shows the interconnections between themes, and drawings, maps of the physical layout of the site. So there are many alternatives of representing the findings. Reporting the findings. Multiple perspectives of each theme, metaphors and analogies, quotes, detail, tensions, and contradictions. Sijui kama mnanielewa. Sasa, if you are a shallow reader, you will not be able, if your language doesn't carry the needed depth, you are not able to bring quotes, metaphors, and analogies, tensions, and contradictions. Look at this one. One board member asked, how could such an incident happen at this university? And it is quoted. There are annotations. There are metaphors, although we don't have them here, but it is a rich description which has detail, has multiple perspectives of each theme, and their tensions and contradictions. That is what makes your findings nyanyable. You can eat them like you eat tomatoes. Interpreting the findings. Interpretation is not neutral. It will carry your bias. Reflect about the personal meaning of the data. Compare and contrast personal viewpoints with the literature that you read. Yeah. Jenkins, in the study about alcoholism among certain age groups, had these findings. My findings indicate otherwise or are aligned. So compare and contrast personal viewpoints with the literature. Address limitations of the study, make suggestions for future research. How do you validate? This is very important. How do you validate the findings? How do you validate the findings, the accuracy? Member checking, asking members to check the accuracy of the account, triangulation, using collaborating evidence, and then external audit, hiring the services of an individual outside the study to review the study. Sometimes expert references. You can give them to anthropologists to read through this and ascertain the facts, the happenings. Then you validate the accuracy. It's not like in quantitative studies where you just test the hypothesis. And that is it. Now, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, I know time is running. Allow me to just go through this again. This is from my previous class. I've just fished it out, and this is, and I would like to share this with you. Allow me to share this slide with you. Again, just to emphasize, this slide is talking about data analysis in qualitative research. And by the way, this is significant. I don't know what I'm saying there. I don't want to ask you why. Why do you think I drew that sketch there? Yeah, kama hutaki kwenda huko juu, basi wacha tusisumbukane. I just memorized something little about data analysis and passed the exam. Huh? What is data analysis? A complex process that involves moving back and forth between concrete bits of data and abstract concepts, between inductive and deductive reasoning, between description and interpretation. Simply put, Data analysis is the process of making meaning from the data, distilling information from the data. Preliminary exploratory. When you see exploratory, qualitative. Explore the data by reading through all of your information to obtain a general sense of information. So if you are not a good reader, don't think you'll find salvation in qualitative analysis. Memo ideas while thinking about the organization of the data and considering whether more data are needed. Jot memos in margins or field notes, transcripts, documents, photos. Yeah, that is annotation in the margins. So memo as you go on. Now look at this. This is the qualitative process of data analysis. Let us start here. The researcher collects data, text file, such as field notes, transcriptions, or optically scanned material, or interviews, and so on. The researcher prepares data for analysis, transcribes. I'm just repeating what I gave in the other notes. The researcher reads through the data, obtains a general sense of material. The researcher codes the data, locates text segments, and assigns a code label to them. I hope you now know a code label is not some configuration XXY or X squared minus 2Y. So this is back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It is iterative. And then this is simultaneous. So this is simultaneous. Codes the text for description to be used. Codes the text for description to be used in the research report. So I hope you understand. Begin to form your conceptualization of what a code is, and then codes the text for themes to be used in the research report. So we have categorization, coding, theming. Now, I want to push this down here. Somewhere here. Here, somewhere here. Developing descriptions and themes for the data. Case study approach. Coding data, developing a description from the data, defining themes from the data, connecting and interrelating themes. If you have never taken me seriously, please take me seriously here. If you want to write a strong qualitative analysis, then you must master the skills of coding, description, theming, connecting, and interrelating themes. It is not a ride in the park. Coding data, open coding, assign a code word or phrase that accurately describes the meaning of the text segment. So this code thing is about a phrase, is a word. Line by line coding is done fast in theoretical research. More general coding involving larger segments of the text is adequate for practical research, action research, like if you're trying to improve learning in the classroom. Then I want us to look at this, and I please, we might overshoot tonight. I want to make sure that sisi sote tuko hapo, na kama hatupo lazima tuwe. So look here. Sorry. Coding a page from a sample interview transcript. The process of reconstructing curriculum in a rural high school setting. And this is an interview between JJ and LU. And, oh my God, sorry. JJ and LU. Unfortunately, I cannot take this beyond this. So I would like, let me see whether I can. Yeah. So, who can pick this up? Please read as I try to keep this thing in check. Somebody?
I can read.
Yes, Otieno, thank you.
Okay. The process of reconstructing curriculum in a rural high school setting. Codes here. So, Prof, I just read the conversation or I also do this.
Conversation, don't go this side. We'll come back to later.
So I mentioned the name of the one talking, the one speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. JJ, one thing, Lucy, that I've heard talked about was the fact that schools reflect the strengths of communities. What do you perceive as strengths of Greenfield as a community and how that relates to schools? Lou, well, I think Greenfields is a fairly close-knit community. I think people are interested in what goes on. And because of that, they have a sense of ownership in the schools. We like to keep track of what our kids are doing and feel a connection to them because of that. The downside that perhaps is that kids can feel that we are looking too close. But most of the time, that is the nurturing environment that we do provide an atmosphere of concern and care. To back up, you said the health of the community itself is reflected in schools. A lot of times, communities look at schools and say they are not doing this or they aren't doing that. Or we are missing something in our schools. I think perhaps you look at the school and see this is probably a pretty conservative community overall, and look to make sure that what is being talked about in the school really carries out the community's values. There is a little bit of an idealization. I think, there is a little bit of an idealization, I think, perhaps in terms of what we thought of basic education. And I think there might be a tendency to hold back a little bit too much because of that idealization of, we learned the basics, the reading, the writing, and the arithmetic. So, any change is threatening. And I think that goes for the community as well as what we see reflected at the school. Sometimes that can get in the way of trying to do different things. I think, again, idealization, older members of the community forget some of the immaturity that they experienced when they were in school and forgetting that. Sorry, I'll start. I think, again, idealization, older members of the community forget some of the immaturity that they experienced when they were in school and forgetting that kids are kids. So there is a little bit too much of that mental attitude. But for the most part, I think there is a sense of we are all in this together and concern for the kids. JJ, in terms of looking at leadership strengths in the community, where does Greenfield set in a continuum there with the planning process, understanding the need to plan, forward-thinking, visionary people? You talked about that a little bit more. Lucy, I think there are a little bit before.
Yeah.
Lucy, I think there are people that have wonderful visionary skills. I would say that the community as a whole will not reflect that. I think there are people who are driving the process, but the rest of the community may be lagging a little bit. Okay, maybe there is a chart there. Let it just so
yeah.
I think we have some incredibly talented people who become frustrated when they try to implement what they see as there.
All right. Now, this is a passage, and what we want to do is coding a page. This side are themes, this side are themes and other ideas. These are...
Sorry, Prof.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening, but I can't see anything being projected. It seems to be a problem with some of the folks also.
Oh.
I don't know what technical issues there.
Just a minute. Thank you. Let me see. This is too important to mess us up. Huh? Let's see. Let's give it some time. Maybe it's loading. Are we okay now?
Now. Yeah, it is now projected, okay. Prof.
So this side are the themes and other ideas. This side. This side are the codes. So there is close-knit community. You can see community. There is health of the community or community values. You can see community. And then change is threatening.
Sorry.
It is gone again.
It's okay.
And then
no, it's visible. I can see it, Prof. It's visible.
Then visionary skills of talented people. These are the codes. Look at this side, themes. The potential theme here is the community. I think you can agree with me. Community, close-knit community, health of community, community's values. Another theme is idea. There's an idea here, getting a good sense here for the community and its values. As I read that, this is a good quote. There's a good quote. And you have to introduce quotes, remember. Where basic education, we learned the basics, the reading, the writing, and the arithmetic. That's a good quote. Then a potential theme is the leader. Leadership comes in, where they're saying there are people actually who just drive the others. Leadership is there. And the idea returns to the description of the community again. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk of coding and theming, this is what we are saying. And it will take, you can see this whole passage. We have reduced it to a certain number of codes, and then a certain number of themes. Look at the themes. Community. Values. We have put a quote And we are talking about leadership. And that's it. So that is data analysis in a qualitative study. And I would like you to bear that in mind. There is axio coding, the process of looking for categories that cut across all data sets. After this type of coding, you have identified your themes. You can't classify something as a theme unless it cuts across the preponderance of the data. Maybe Boaz would have told us what preponderance is, but not today. Clustering. After open coding an entire text, make a list of all the code words. Cluster together similar codes and look for redundant code. Reduce the long list of codes to a smaller, more manageable number. And by the way, we're talking of text of 50 pages, and you have to come out with codes and then themes. This you have seen. Look at this. Initially read through the text data, many pages. Divide the text into segments of information, many segments. Label the segments of information into codes, 30 to 40 codes. Reduce overlap and redundancy. Codes reduced to 20. Collapse codes into themes. Codes reduced to 5 to 7 themes. Reductionist. That is a business. So don't start dancing gingerly and saying, me, I'll just do qualitative analysis. Sio mchezo. Even if you're using software, you must already have done a run of this. Preliminary organizing the scheme itself. Take this new list of codes and go back to the data. Reduce the list of codes to get 5 to 7 themes or descriptions. Themes are similar to codes aggregated together to form a major idea. Identify the 5 to 7 themes by constantly comparing the data. This is called constant comparative analysis. And I really am apologizing. I'm jumping over time. Constant, I wish I'll have time. Constant comparative analysis, the art of classroom inquiry, is a very interesting reading. I want you to check to get it from the library. This is a process whereby data gradually evolve into a core of emerging theory. The core is a theoretical framework that further guides the collection of data. The major modifications are lessened as comparisons of the next incidence of the category to its properties are carried out. Please pick this article and do some practice on it. Why themes? It is best to write a qualitative report providing detailed information about a few themes rather than general information about many themes. Themes can also be referred to as categories, but I would like to call them themes. Naming, the names can come from at least 3 sources: the researcher, the participants, and the literature. Most common, when the researcher comes up with terms, concepts, and categories that reflect what he or she sees in the data. And then I would like you to, themes should reflect the purpose of the research, be exhaustive, you must place all data in a category, be sensitizing, should be sensitive to what is in the data, leadership versus charismatic leadership, be conceptually congruent, the same level of abstraction should categorize all categories at the same level. For instance, you wouldn't have produce canned goods and fruit. And finally, no. Types of themes, ordinary themes, themes a researcher expects, unexpected themes, themes that are surprises and not expected to surface, hard to classify themes that contain ideas that not easily fit into one theme or overlap with several themes. Major and minor themes, themes that represent the major ideas or major secondary ideas in a database, and minor themes fit under major themes in the write-up. A description, a detailed rendering of people, places, or events in a setting in qualitative research. Codes such as seating arrangements, teaching approach, or physical layout of a room might all be used to describe the classroom where instruction takes place. So there are different ways to describe aspects of your study. Narrative description: from the coding and the themes, construct a narrative description and possibly a visual display of the findings from your research report. Use the assigned format. Ours is APA 7th edition. Constructing the narrative: identify dialogue that provides support for the themes. Look for dialogue in the participants' own dialect. Use metaphors and analogies. Collect quotes from interview data or observations. Locate multiple perspectives and contrary evidence. Look for vivid detail. Identify tensions and contradictions in individual experiences. Nafikiri wanafunzi walimu wa fasihi, walimu wa fasihi wanaelewa mambo ya tensions and contradictions. Hiyo ni kuongeza utamu, kuongeza chumvi, kuonyesha uzoefu wako na yale ambayo uliyakuta wakati ulikuwa unafanya utafiti huo. Yes. Conveying personal, I don't know how this will be, but it creates a lot of bias. Conveying personal reflections.
Can we go back to the other slide, the slide that just passed? Is it possible?
This one?
Yeah, the last one, identify tensions and contradictions in individual experiences.
Yes.
So are we talking about the informants, the participants in this research, so that the views that they have given to you?
No, you have been observing, you have been interviewing.
Yes.
You will observe, you'll identify tensions and contradictions. My sister was married in a sub-tribe of Luyas called Cabras, and she had only one son, and I was the only uncle, my stepsister, and I took a cow. I put it on a pickup with 3 of my friends dressed in suits. When we reached the home at 11 in the morning, and we were not allowed to enter the home because the boy had gone to the paternal uncles to collect gifts and cows. They were coming back at 7 in the evening, a place where there's no hotel, there's no market. We are sitting there.
That was during circumcision, right?
That is punishment, Prof. Punishment, Prof.
Yes, during circumcision. And my sister is so embarrassed. And then at 9 o'clock in the night, they are slaughtering a cow and they're giving us raw meat, giving Agnes, my wife, raw meat and some kimbo and some salt and some firewood and a sufuria and some unga, and telling us, now you can go and cook your own food. There are tensions and contradictions. That's what I'm talking about. But to the Jedliana, when we are writing our work, conveying personal reflections, I really would like somebody to read this for me. Please bear with us. Let's finish this qualitative analysis. Anybody pick it up?
Because qualitative researchers believe that personal...
I can read, Prof.
Somebody's reading already. Read loudly.
Okay, because qualitative researchers believe that personal views can never be kept separate from interpretations, personal reflections about the meaning of the data are included in the research study. David had been diagnosed with ADHD and also with mild Tourette syndrome. He took medication for ADHD. He was selected to participate in the project as a confirming participant because he was so involved with the project and so intense during the first observation. Unaware that he had ADHD and Tourette syndrome until I interviewed his mother during the second year of the project. I was surprised because he was the most focused student in the classroom. Terry, 2003.
Yeah. Look at conveying personal reflections. Because qualitative researchers believe that personal views can never be kept separate from interpretations, personal reflections about the meaning of the data are included in the research study. And this is an illustration. Sasa nikitaka wakati nitakuwa nasahihisha yale ambayo utakuwa umeandika your thesis, please excite me with such interjections, tensions and contradictions, quotations, analogies, metaphors. That's what it is all about. Continue reading. Reading.
Providing visual data displays. Qualitative researchers often display their findings visually. Comparison table or matrix, hierarchical tree diagram that represents themes and their connections, boxes that show connections between themes, physical layout of the setting, personal or demographic information for each person or site.
Yes. I don't know whether this will make sense, but just look at this. And I'll send, you're getting this presentation, so you look at them and let me hear some comments in the next class. Can you go on? Just go on, the person who's reading, in the interest of time. Yeah.
Making comparisons with the literature, interpret the data in view of past research, show how the findings both support and contradict prior studies. These findings are consistent with other studies in regard to duration. It has been found that the length or duration of service learning projects has an impact on student outcomes, with the longer duration duration projects having greater impacts. However, significant differences are not found in projects lasting over 18 weeks. Conrad and Hayden, 1981. The project on which this study focused was examined over a 1.5-year period of time. Thus, it is considered to be long in duration, which helps to explain its impact on student outcomes.
Yeah. This is called a discussion. You must go back to your literature and interpret your data in view of the studies that you had encountered. This is what I would like to see dancing in your chapter 4. Go on.
Limitations of the study. The researcher suggests possible limitations or weaknesses of the study. This study focused on one rural primary school in an area in northeastern Kenya. It documented the methodology used in the STEP learning project and the effect of a certain type of service learning model. Therefore, the study provides an in-depth look at a service learning project carried out by DFID in just one primary school in a rural area situated in northern Kenya. Transferability may be limited as a result. Ayiro, 2001.
So you can also bring out possible limitations or weaknesses. Yes, carry on.
Future research suggested. Researchers make recommendations for future research. In addition, further research is needed to determine outcomes for a diversified culture of students, including but not limited to nomadic students and hard-to-reach children. Research is also needed to examine and validate existing frameworks before professing any general claims concerning the outcomes for students engaged in service learning activities. CL 2003.
CLA.
Okay, CLA 2003.
Yeah. So you see, I'm giving you different perspectives that I would like to see come through your chapter 4.
Validating.
Can we have some? Okay, finish it up. We're just about to finish. Sorry. No. Somebody help her. She's read quite a bit. Somebody?
Validating the accuracy of findings.
Yes, Sanya.
At the end, the qualitative researcher validates the finding by determining the accuracy or credibility of the findings. Methods include prolonged engagement and persistent observation in the field, triangulation, peer review, clarifying researcher bias, member checking, rich, thick description, and external audit.
Yeah, so I'll be asking you in your defense, can you give us your approaches to validating the accuracy of your findings? You must have engaged in one of these, 1, 2, 3 of these, and you shouldn't look blank. Carry on. Sanya?
Addressing research bias. I'm not an impartial bystander when it comes to service learning, so I knew I had to enhance internal validity at the outset of the study. I have been involved with community action service learning projects for over 16 years as a teacher. I have co-authored a book on how to facilitate community action service learning projects, which I have used to implement service learning projects in my own classroom. My students have been featured in Reader's Digest and have been guests on the Citizen TV education show because of their outstanding work in service learning. Being aware of this bias, I took extreme precautions to maintain objectivity during both the collection and analysis of the data, thereby accurately representing the project fairly. Up a bit, I can't read the last sentence.
Fairly and accurately.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ayiro 2001.
Yeah. So addressing the research bias, you know you're part of the instrument in qualitative research. So you must bring these aspects that really showed your bias. So because I'll be saying being from Western Province and of the Bukusu subtribe, and having seen these circumcision rights over and over, you bring in, you submit to your bias. And then you tell us, you see, like I'm saying here, I took extreme precautions to maintain objectivity during both the collection and analysis of the data, thereby accurately representing the project fairly and accurately. Carry on.
Reliability or dependability. From a quantitative perspective, reliability refers to the extent to which research findings can be replicated. From a qualitative perspective, reliability in qualitative research is not based on outsiders getting the same results, but that outsiders concur that given the data collected, the results make sense. In other words, the results are dependable and consistent. Lincoln and Guba, 1985.
Yeah, so reliability and dependability in qualitative will depend on expert concurrence. Carry on.
External validity.
We're just about to finish, yes. I was just checking. Okay.
External validity. Concerned with the extent to which the findings of one study can be applied to other situations. Quantitative studies enhance external validity using a priori conditions, which are limiting in conducting qualitative research. External validity is problematic in qualitative research because in qualitative research, a single case or small non-random sample is selected precisely because the researcher wishes to understand the particular in depth, not to find out what is generally true of the many. Merriam, 1998, page 208.
Yeah, so you see, you can't chase external validity in a qualitative study because you actually went for information-rich respondents and very few. So there's no generalizability of those findings. Finally,
applying external validity to qualitative research. Think in terms of the reader of the study. What is the extent to which a study's findings can apply to other situations? This is referred to as representativeness or transferability. Merriam, 1998, suggests Merriam, 1998 suggests rich, thick description and typicality, model category, or multi-site designs. To enhance external validity in this study, these procedures were followed.
yeah. Thank you very much. These were my notes for my PhD class in Moi. So you see, if we can comprehend this type of thinking, we are home and dry in our next visit to Jerusalem. Can I have some comments as we close? Caro, are you still online? No.
Yes, Prof.
Oh, I love your commitment. So how is the class feeling? I would like to hear one or two comments. Otherwise, I'll sleep a very worried man.
Excuse me, Prof.
Yes, author.
There is something that I have noticed there. Maybe you give a clarification on it today in our meeting tonight. In some
Not
research,
clear.
you find, okay, I'm saying in some research, you find people the researcher referring to themselves in the third person. But I found the reflection that you've had here, it has been put in first person pronoun to strengthen your research. So do we have to follow this particular, you find that people will say that the research manual for this particular university, you will use the third person pronoun to refer to a researcher.
But not for qualitative research. Not for qualitative research. And you'll see the new man. I'm just finishing reading the graduate manual book for Daystar. I've had to have it overhauled. The one you're going to get copies of. No. Feel free to sit in the situation as a qualitative researcher. Chris Wekesa. Yeah. Wekesa.
Prof, thank you. I had put a question on the chat, but let me see. What I was asking was, was what you were teaching us applicable in the mixed research methodology?
Yeah.
That is the question. And my last comment is, thank you so much for what you've given us. This one needs a lot of time to contextualize it. It's not a 1 hour thing, but I know with time we will be able to get it deeper in our understanding. Thank you, Prof.
Sometimes, I just get immersed and my mood was that you must have a test of this data analysis things. Yeah, but we are working with you into the proposals, but I want you to know what lies ahead and begin to mentally and intellectually have the courage to go on. Florence Matthew. Matthew?
Good evening, Prof. Thank you. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly, yes.
Yeah, I was, all right. I was saying now I see the benefit of the mixed method. You know, you can look at the data and then you look at the quote unquote research and the results of your data. And I think it's very beneficial. I appreciate having both, you know, the statistics in terms of the data, but I also appreciate the stories behind the data. So I appreciate the mixed method.
Yeah, I would like to hear voices accompanying that data, the statistics. I would like to hear cries. I would like to hear advocacy songs. I would like to hear circumcision songs accompanying that data of the number of boys who have been circumcised in the Republic, in the People's Republic of Kenya. Gaki.
Thank you, Prof. From my end, I would say it was quite intense in terms of the details and the expectations that you have, and generally, even in the learning process, not just writing a thesis or project about it, but it's something that is quite thorough, which you gave us in a very elaborate manner, and somehow it's doable. I think I fall under the category that looks at statistics with one eye and the other one, I decide this is my path. So I'm looking forward for the book that you talked about that you would share or recommend us to work on. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, very good. Madiang, and then I'll sum up. There is, of course, the usual notes, and this time there's an assignment to it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. I think Gaki has mentioned the element of the book. My only regret is that I think your publishers are yet to kind of privilege us with buying the book. Huh? But everything else comes on well. My only confusion, Prof, comes from the fact that this seems again to be a continuation from last semester. And we also have the element of the one for this semester. So where they will both come together. But thanks for giving us the confidence so that we may be ready to start the research chapters in a week or in a fortnight's time. Over.
You can imagine, colleagues, you can imagine if we had just stopped where I had stopped. It's fine, you've gotten the grade, but no, and we won't stop. I will not stop. Like now, I want to touch mixed methods as we start the proposals. I want to do ethics of research. I actually want to do APS 7th edition in my own way. Then my conscience will be clear. We will be ready to go. So thank you very much. And sorry, we have overshot the time, but I think God wanted it that way. And so may his will be done. I continue praying for you, and good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for the labor. It has been such a refreshing time. This is a lot of
Thank you.